Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Focus Episode 2. That is going to be the Hyperspace Trial Kits. Again, this is material that we're recording for our podcast Patreons. I am your host, Ed Horn, and alongside me tonight is going to be my friend, I screwed that one up. Please edit this part out. No, leave it alone. All right, my partner in crime and gaming one, Mr. Chad Brown. Thank you for wearing pants tonight.
Hey, everybody.
One, Mr. Sean Dorsey.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And our producer extraordinaire, one Mr. Chris Sheriff. Chris, how are you?
Good, thanks, Ed.
I'm really starting to like these little 10-minute ones. These little 10 to 15-minute quick conversations. Hey, something new came out. Let's talk about it today. Let's talk about it right now. And we all just kind of get together and talk about it. So today we saw through the interwebs that they have released the contents of the Hyperspace Trial Kits, similar to what we covered in Focus Episode 1 with the store kits. We now have the Hyperspace Trial Kits. Chad, would you like to cover some of the contents that are in there?
I can do that. Let me pull that up.
Did I catch you off guard?
I had something else up at the moment. No, it wasn't porn.
Later.
So I was just going to say that it was Aaron from the OCX podcast who I saw share these first. So
Yeah, I think it's the same place I saw it too.
Yeah,
and
so
then it kind of got bounced around.
Kudos to him for getting them up and shared. So thanks for that. Credit where it's due. I always try and, if I don't break the news, make sure we give credit to whoever does.
Absolutely.
And then break their knees.
On the table, metaphorically.
Maybe.
Okay.
All right, you got it? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right, so contents for this kit are going to be 66 alternate art cards, 2 per player. So that should be
top
fun.
32, 2 for the TO.
Right. We're going to have 35 plastic cards. So you've seen those. Those are kind of cool and everything.
That's a weird number, too, because if you figure one's going to TO, that's 34, so that's not really top. I wonder if it goes to first place, second place.
Giveaway, whatever they decide to do. Top 32 giveaway, they'll be probably give the store the ability to give away the 2 cards, to anybody. Like
you don't actually know that they don't match. Because remember, this is just what goes out to retailers, not the actual tournament contents of the kit. So it could be 33 plastic cards and then a first and second place card that could be different to the others, but they are all plastic.
Yeah,
that's true too.
That is true. We're gonna get 33 sets of tokens.
Not saying which ones they are. Again, similar situation.
No.
TO gets a set, and they're top 32.
Yep. 17 sets of dice and range rulers.
That's
like
interesting.
that.
Well, that's interesting because they're giving out, top 16s getting more than just top 8 dice,
Right.
That's pretty cool.
I like that it's moved out of just the top 8 getting dice, it's top 16, and you're getting range rulers as well. So, I mean, if you get into the top 16, you're really kind of getting into a bit of a reward for being there. The dice are always going to be the highest ticket items, aside for some of those old rare cards, which are now worth nothing. So everyone should be selling them for $5 to me.
So let me throw my speculation out there. Top 16 dice go to top 16. Range rulers go to 17 to 32.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Well, because the range ruler doesn't hold the weight the dice do,
But
It doesn't, but they're going to be hard to get.
Yeah.
Well, I understand that, but I think the whole point of this though is to try to do as much as you can with it, and that just seems reasonable. But hell, top 16.
If that
get
is
2
how it
prizes,
turns out,
that's pretty good.
That is really good.
That means you could potentially come first and not have a range ruler.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
But you're going to have maneuver templates, so.
But you wouldn't have a range ruler to match, though.
Well,
or you get into a
another
crazy situation where you've already placed and got all the stuff that you wanted except for first place, and you're like, okay, if I lose this game, I'm going to be 16, or if I win this game, I'm going to be in the top 16. But if I lose it, I get the range rulers I don't have and intentionally throw a game to go down to be able to get those. Like you'll have that weird math going on.
Yeah.
It'll
be interesting.
The more important thing is this is an expensive kit, so they're probably going to charge you an arm and a leg to play, and you're going to want as much as you can get.
That is true.
So top 8.
So moving on, we're going to have 9 sets of maneuver templates. The top 8 and then the one for whoever's running.
Am I wrong that they switched that priority? Didn't it used to be like the maneuver templates were top 16s and it used to be top 8 for dice?
No, top 4 was usually templates.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're actually expanding that even further then.
The Star Championship range ruler used to be top 16 at Star Championships.
Yeah. But for this, if you view this as a regional style, the tokens went to top 32 or the top 16, top 32. It depends what year you're in, I think. And then they had 8 sets of dice, 4 sets of range rulers, and then the trophy was the
first place. Yeah. And it does say range rulers, plural, meaning you're going to get the range 1, range 2, range 3.
Yeah.
Thank God they've come around to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Moving on, we're going to get 4 card binders.
Interesting. Probably with some FFG authorized art with a nice little logo to put all your cold cards in.
Right, right. These are going to have to be actual full-size binders. They're not going to be able to get away with those ones they've done for upgrade cards because they're no longer the size of cards being used.
Oh, yeah, no. And I'm sure they know that going in.
Yeah. And finally, we got a trophy, a vinyl poster, and they're going to provide you with some table numbers.
So that's a change because in the past I've asked them, for access to the table numbers that they have like at Worlds at Fantasy Flight.
Right.
They said they couldn't do it, and the reason I was given is it's the because of what it is. It was the Star Wars, so an LFL product at that point. Which they weren't allowed to give away. Doing this is pretty cool for stores because now you got hopefully some pretty cool X-Wing driven.
And you don't get like the jank ones that are like taped to the table kind of thing, kind of scenario.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool.
There is one key
take
point.
Care of them. Oh,
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if people take care of those numbers, you can just use them over and over again.
But it looks like they come in each kit.
Yes.
No, if they're going to come in each kit, then whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but you can still use them for locals.
Yeah.
Right.
So there is one key point, Chad, that is the price tag.
Yeah. The price tag. The blood of the innocent. Actually, this one here is listed at $450.
Cash money, yo. So this 2 other points I want to make out real quick before we really dive into that, because there is, I do really want to dig into that. But they are also saying this is for the first cycle of the 2019 cycle and then the second cycle of 2019 for Kit 2.
So the expected date for this one is March 1st, 2019, and you can run it between March 2nd and June 30th.
Right. So that gives us an idea of when Hyperspace trials are going to start. It's going to be March of
They did announce that in the article, like with date ranges. Then the Trial Kit 2, it's got the same contents. It's expected by September 6th, and you can use it between September 7th and December 29th.
So are they moving Worlds for this then?
Again?
They have to. Well, so I thought they were doing a Star Wars miniatures only in October.
No, they're doing X-Wing in October.
Okay, so
all he announced was that they will be playing some X-Wing in October.
Right, so they didn't necessarily say that it was going to be a World Championship because the qualifiers to get there, people are playing first edition.
Yeah.
For this year, but these seem to be, because when you read through this, it actually tells you Hyperspace Trials draws X-Wing players together from across your region for spirited competition, a shot at exclusive prizes, and a chance to qualify for the game's World Championships. So if championships are in May, this runs past May. This runs into June.
You don't know.
I put it down, so I need to see when that second kit ends, when you can allow to run them.
If it's a 2019, so it finishes on December 29th.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if these ones qualified you for 2020 Worlds.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, no, I would agree with you. Yeah, I just think it's interesting.
That is a weird schedule though. So like, if they did something in October for Worlds, they would have already run Hyperspace Trials the first time through. does that move the dates for things like nationals? Because like U.S.
There
nationals,
isn't a nationals.
Well, exactly. That's kind of exactly my point. So it's just hyperspace trials.
Yeah, there's a hyperspace cup, which is an upgraded version of hyperspace trials, which if your store can qualify for, you can ask to run that. But we don't know if the kit's any different or any information about that. So all we know at the moment is the regional equivalent. But there is no nationals anymore. That will become a hyperspace cup, which will again have windows and be ran whenever.
That's so weird. So call me old and crotchety and get off my lawn. I get it.
I do all the time.
You do. But this is sort of why I liked the original format that OP came out with whenever Store Championships, because there was a predictable season. You went from Store Championships ran for a certain time, your regionals ran for a certain time, nationals ran by a certain time, and when those nationals were done, Worlds was right around the corner. And then right after Worlds, about a month or two later, Store Championships for the next season kicked back up. Like it was a natural cycle. It was very secular.
Well,
to scatter this is I'm not sure.
I'll be honest with you, Ed. Though I think that you're going to get on a cycle with this. There will be something that comes, because when you look at this, you're running it from March 1st to December, basically December 29th. So now you have January, February to do something with it, or it could be one falls before Worlds, one falls after Worlds. The reason why I actually kind of like this, Ed, is because you're given more chances for this stuff, So let's just say that they do where they have like 30 or 35 stores across the United States, and and so many stores in Europe and Canada and everywhere else. The opportunities, now you have two opportunities rather than just one opportunity a year. You basically have two opportunities a year, plus just gob tons of potential store championships now too. So, but I also think too, the hard part for me especially is because you've reset once. You reset from November to May.
Right, exactly.
And then potentially resetting again. I understand, X-Wing is too big. They have to do X-Wing separate from everything else. It is just too big they could do it, on a weekend if you run, and the way that I would do it is just run flights, run 2 a day, 2 flights a day. You run 4 rounds and figure out your cut out of that, and then start up another 4 and keep going. But with this, it's just, I like it because it gives you more opportunities. Everybody likes the dice. Potentially in a year you could have a shot at 2 sets of dice, and just
the contents of the kit will be different as well. From trial kit 1 to trial kit 2, it's supposed to be different contents.
See, the other part of this, which I think will be frustrating for some, fun for others, is each cycle utilizes its own set of squad building requirements. Each cycle introduces new prices.
Yeah.
So, what happens if they say you can only use these 6 ships? From each faction. And then when you introduce, the 2 factions that will show up here down the road, and it's going to be interesting to see what this actually comes out to be. Until we get the word on what this actually is, I think that's where the point where people are going to get the most frustrated is, because I think I've seen a little bit of frustration, and I don't know what it was for because I didn't read through the whole thing, but there are people who are frustrated right now with the voting, I think, that's going on for, what is it, the System Open
the World
final
Championships final. They're currently still calling it X-Wing Worlds, which is the one that Ed was talking about in October. But it is effectively the Invitational tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it used to be the System Open.
Yeah.
So whomever were to win that would not be an official X-Wing World Champion.
They would, because that's what it's called. Whoever FFG says is the world champion is the world champion.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I take great umbrage with that if that's the case. And the reasons for a multitude. The reason why they made it to that tournament was playing a different game.
Get off my lawn!
Old and crotchety, get me on that. That's fine. They played a different game to get there. They played first edition to get there.
Ultimately, it's FFG's game.
Yeah,
it's like saying that there was loads of people playing X-Wing first edition when Doug Kinney won, but just because it wasn't a big enough game to make them want to pay to fly to America doesn't make him any less of a world champion. Because FFG
and I
said
agree with that completely, and I don't think that's an apples to apples comparison, though. I think he was at least still playing.
But how did he get invited to play? Well, there's no invites. He just turned up and played.
But back in those days, those were open tournaments.
Right.
So yeah, but that's what I mean. But he still the fact that he lived locally enough to Minnesota to be able to compete in the World Championship
and won it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I couldn't have gone. People in the UK couldn't have gone to that. You know,
not the initial.
Because how many people were there? Like 20, 30 people?
Yeah, you got to figure it had been. It had premiered at Gen Con, and then they had a World Championship a few months later. So yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
So the fact that this is an invitational tournament makes it irrelevant. The fact that they got their invite by proving that they were good at X-Wing 1.0 is irrelevant. They got invited to a tournament. So the only umbrage you could take is that if it is a closed invite-only tournament, then sad times, she should have been good and gone to more events. You know, you can't call them not a world champion if this... And how long have we spoke about the different ways of doing worlds? Do you make it a pedigree event where you have invite only? If they're only
that's where I've always stood. You guys know that. I've always stood World should have been an invite only tournament. At least the World Championship portion of it. You could have had a world style tournament and have that be like a qualifier, you know, for the top 8 qualify in or whatever at that point, and then you just have a kind of like a large cut that's you know the second day of the tournament, and you know.
I don't necessarily have a problem with the invite only portion of it. I don't. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with that. I thoroughly agree with the idea of winning your way to get in. I think you just need to win your way in playing the game that you played to get there.
But why? You can't then. If it comes out in September, I think
this one should be a punt. It shouldn't be
why? But so we know. Are you trying to say that people who are good at X-Wing 1.0 won't be good at X-Wing 2.0? If FFG choose to invite people, they get to invite whoever they want. Like,
I mean, you're both. The both of you have, I think, a correct line of thinking for the two ways people are going to think about it. It's true. It's FFG's tournament. They do it the way they want. And it's just like these, you know, just like the Hyperspace trial kids.
The big thing for me that I suppose would be a worry for me comes down to they've moved Star Wars FFG Star Wars Worlds is now in May. It's generally the May 4th week.
Right.
So we've had 2 years of precedent for that now. If you're going to remove X-Wing from Worlds, that's going to massively cut down on your attendance of Worlds. So,
I would agree with it.
Are we going to have X-Wing Worlds again in May that is your open style tournament? So you could have an X-Wing Worlds Open, and then you could have an X-Wing Invitational tournament in October. We've no idea what the plan is for that part of the track.
That's true.
Right.
And then do you have two separate titles? Do you have the Invitational winner, or do you have the Open winner?
I think the titles, realistically, are something we as a community put on people. FFG just want to run fun events. I don't think they care.
And they proved that, I think, when they took the banners down.
Yeah.
You know, the elite.
They at least gave Doug Kenny his. I was actually there when they gave him his. It was so cool. I'm sorry they did that.
Yeah, but you know, they took kind of that elite view of that away and made it more of just an open tournament that everybody can come to and play. It was a very inviting tournament for the first 4 years, and then it became the button crash on the computer to be able to refresh fast enough to be able to get your ticket.
Yeah.
You know, and that's you know, but that's just what happens when things grow. if you stay in the same venue and you grow, think about this. Think of Gen Con today if they would have stayed up in that original venue they had up in Wisconsin. They'd had to turn people away. I think they could only hold like 10,000 or something, or even less, and it's,
so do we want to bring it back to talk about these kits?
Oh, I suppose we can.
Yeah.
I'm just looking. I know Ed wanted to do a 10-15 minute show. We're at 20 minutes now, so.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right. So
Ed was concerned about his lawn.
Yeah.
I was, and people being on it. So to double it back to the kits themselves. So one of the things that Sean said in there that I really kind of keyed in on was if they were going to do 32 or 35 shows tournaments throughout the U.S., for example, that's the way that the old regionals used to be broken down into those individual X number of tournaments per region kind of thing. But if I'm not mistaken, whenever I heard them talking about it, that they were going to make these more numerous and seeing more of them. Well, so I am kind of curious if the level of prestige of getting to one, if it's going to be that difficult, because like we used to make field trips. We used to go, there was one here in Pittsburgh every year. Mr. Nice Guys, this fantastic facility. Love the folks down there. We'll attend that one. But then we'd have to get down to like the Glen Burnie area to get into the Nova area, shoot over to the Columbus area to catch theirs, that kind of thing.
Right.
If I can go with a shorter radius of driving to get to some of these because they are smaller events, great. But then you look at the price tag of the kit and go, the price tag alone could price people out of saying, I'm not spending
I think
$500 for a kit.
You've got to look at this threefold, really. There's the three factors, I think, that will affect the prestige of these events. You've touched on one there, the price tag of it. I believe it's about triple the price of a current regional kit.
Roughly, yeah.
And I don't know that the pricing is that much better. There's more of the top end pricing, so you can argue that the pricing is better. The lower end pricing is where it falls off, because I've heard for the US anyway, we don't know any information about Europe, UK, Canada. I've heard that the qualifying things to be able to run one of these is that you need to be able to pay for the kit, and you need to be able to host a 60-player event, or you need to have 32 tables, effectively, to be able to qualify to run it.
Right.
So that's going to...
In Omaha, you're going to have... See, this is what bothers... It's always bothered me about the kits, but when you get 100 players, you have 66, 60... Well, you're only going to have enough for the top
32.
32.
Yeah. And they don't have the participation card like the regional
card. Yeah, the inclusion card isn't in there.
The problem I have massively with this is that working in a store where I primarily run the events and stuff, looking at the price tag on this, if you've got to then... that cost has got to be passed on to a player base. So I'm going to make it like local and regional to me and my issues now. So in Canada... I ran the biggest regional last year, earlier on this year that Alberta's ever had, and it wasn't a 50-player event. That's about the level we're sitting at. That's drawing people in who are traveling 12 hours to get to our event.
Right.
So that, you know what I mean. That's a good catchment area, but middle, So I imagine.
How much did you charge for that event? Just out of curiosity.
15 or 20 Canadian, so practically nothing.
So now
we're looking at having to charge like $40, $45, and then doesn't add in extra pricing.
Yeah, and there's no participation price.
We were charging like $20, giving out epic ships, extra ships. Pricing we've had made specifically for the event.
Right.
That money was coming out of the leftover money, because the Sentry Box, we never plan on making a profit from the kits. We always try and push it back in. Anything that's left over gets accounted for in like gift cards and stuff like that.
But a lot of stores, so you're going to have the stores that sit on the margin, of can they get enough players that are going to potentially say no to this, because they don't want to risk the $900 a year, basically, or they may do one and not the other.
That's another thing as well. We don't actually know if you can run both kits.
Right.
We don't know if you qualify yet.
Right.
Again, this comes down with Sentry Box. We probably would suck it up and run both kits if we're allowed to. But if we're not, only 2 stores in Calgary got bothered getting Store Championship kits. So out of the 4 or 5 places people go and play X-Wing, only 2 of us got Store Championship kits. So we can't rely on another store picking up the slack.
And thinking about this too, you have to apply for them by the same date, August 14th. So if you're a store out there, now you know, if you haven't seen this yet, you need to look into it, because you have till August 14th to be able to apply.
Yeah.
And that's something that's interesting to me, is that you're applying for both kits. So basically you're potentially risking $900, for an event that you don't know. Me personally, I think most stores will be okay, but if you're a small store that could host, or if you're in an area where you may not potentially draw in enough people, you're going to be charging $40 a head, which is that's a huge risk. I mean, I know that there are gaming systems out there that will do that, but there's a huge following on those systems. With this,
and the prizes usually
are worth it.
Validate that price tag.
Correct.
I've always been about paying to play in the event, not paying for the prizing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And I agree with you on that.
I don't.
But there's a uniqueness to that, though, Chris. You know, that thought process in today's X-Wing is kind of unique, because people view the prizes as the way to pay for X-Wing.
Yeah.
So the player and the top players that I know, and I know quite a few, some of them keep the stuff. There's those guys out there that are just
very few people keep everything, and
correct.
Even myself, I've sold off a big swath of prizing and stuff because I had to. I needed, with the baby and Joe not working, we're at that point where I needed to start selling stuff. I didn't ever plan on doing it, but stuff had to go. And when it's got that monetary value attached to it, you sometimes have to.
Right.
But
and I know people who sold World's dice literally, as they got them put in their hands, they were splitting them in half and for $500.
Dude, we were at Worlds 2015. We saw Worlds players literally sell dice for $300 in cash at the table. Yeah. Go back to the hotel, and the guy that bought them was playing with six Worlds dice of each color, and playing a pickup game after qualifiers for the top 16. Like, I literally saw that happen. We're like, well, how did you get him? He's like, oh yeah, I paid $300 for him, and it was like nothing.
Right.
So that guy paid for his hotel stay. He paid for everything, like almost everything, to get there just by selling the dice for getting there.
And we know one of them personally who's literally got the dice, and he had them sold before his top 8 loss was over.
Yeah.
And split. He got like $600 or $700 for him. Between $500 and $700. And that's the thing about something like this, is the kit to a lot of players. Those dice, the cards, the tokens, they have value. They have this great value to them, and that's why this is an interesting thing to see this price point on the kit. I think there's a lot of stuff in it. As a former TO, this is very appealing. If I'm a store, if I'm a TO, I'm talking that store into doing this no matter what, just because you can't beat what you're going to get.
I think for me, the question that arises when I see the price tag on that kit is, obviously we start going down the logical steps of, so logically stores that could host these are going to have to up the price tags to get in. I'm curious as to how many of the semi-competitive, semi-casual players that this is going to chase off, because, I know I'm not one of the best. I know I'm not going to get into that top 32 to even start looking at prizes. Why would I want to spend $40 to do it? Now, I would argue against that. What's that?
I agree you're not.
Well, my point being is, so I could see some of those players, they're mostly, because how many times have you gone to an X-Wing tournament, even the high-level ones, the regionals and the nationals, are like, oh yeah, no, I just started playing this game like 3 weeks ago, and we've all had those encounters, or oh yeah, no, I just play with my buddies, I'm just here to kind of play games. The counter argument to that is, the best argument that I ever heard was, I paid $25 today to play 4 games or 5 games of X-Wing. where I don't get to see a lot of people in my local area. This was worth it to me to pay that $25 to come in, and to get those games in, because I don't get to do it all the time. And that's a great argument.
That's the difference between the two types of players you're talking about here. That's the key. Is this number one? 2.0 has to work. You have to start there. 2.0 has to work. So the remodeling of the game has to work to begin with. Then you're adding in, and this is the piece that catches my eye more than prizes or anything else, is each cycle utilizes its own set of squad building requirements. If you have a set of squad building requirements that players don't like, people aren't going to come.
Yeah, the problem you've got from if I put my store owner hat on type thing, I don't know what those requirements are going to be. So if I give you a decent, if I'm a relatively small store, everyone shouldn't realize that game stores generally have cash flow problems. I've got to give you $900 if I'm applying for both of them. I can't recoup half of that until September at the earliest.
Correct.
And then when September comes, reference Game on Point, I don't even know. You could say, oh, we're only allowing people to play single TIE Fighter, and then no one turns up.
Or it's only Wave 2, Wave 3 ships, Wave 1.
Obviously, it's quite a facetious argument. That you'd like to think that they'll know what they're doing. I'll give them a benefit of the doubt. But you have to, having that, you can't guarantee what style of OP is going to be the popular one, because we don't know. We already know that there's 3 variants in the kits we talked about on the last exclusive show. Right. And then that's going to tier into one of those styles will be what we use here. And then it's how that balances out. And I don't know. It's scary. If you've got to drop $1,000 that you don't know you're going to make back.
Well, and you don't know necessarily what you're getting either. You have a general idea of the contents that are coming in that kit, but like you said, if they start rotating ships out or whatever format, and I don't know that they're going to do that. Like you said, it's kind of a bit of a strawman kind of type argument to build that. Say, well, they could only be playing Wave 3 ships like that, and people are like, oh, I'm not playing in that, and then you're stuck at the table that I've spent $900 on these 2 kits and no one's showing up. I'm never going to recoup that. It's kind of nerve-wracking for a store to be like, am I willing to make that financial commitment for the potential failure that comes out of it? It was different before because you knew what you were getting. You were getting an X-Wing regionals, and you knew what that entailed.
Especially cash for stores. This is where, because this is going to be a direct buy, not a net 30, net 60, whatever. The other thing is that this, it's player taste. Right now the game is so good. It's always been so good because it was always no, just hear me out. And I don't mean good as in, but it's because it was always every ship was available to play. There was never a restrictive environment. With Magic the Gathering, when you went to an F&M or you went to a PTQ or you went to a GP or whatever, you knew what your element was going to be well ahead of time because that schedule was put out months and months in advance. So if I knew I was going to play Modern at a PTQ, I had my Modern deck ready. Where with this...
I'm glad you bring up... Sorry, go on, Sean.
Well, I just want to say, with this, I don't care. Truthfully, I think it's cool if they go with, let's say... and if it were me running this, if I were OP with Fantasy Flight, I would say this tournament's the open tournament, so you can run anything that's out there that's in the game through the conversion kits and everything else. And then this one is going to be whatever wave to whatever wave is released tournament. So if they're up to Wave 3 by that time, Wave 1, 2, and 3 are legal, and then that's what you have to build with. That's the way that I would do it, but I wouldn't do it on this scale with this price point. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's fine. I'm frowning at Chad sending messages because I now have to try and edit out those beeps.
Oh, I can't hear the beeps, so
no, it's okay. I should have muted Skype. It's fine. What I was going to say, I'm glad that you brought up Magic and that kind of competitive environment, because I do feel like these kits at this price point are going to foster the O2 drop mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
There isn't enough pricing to go around, so I'm not going to get it. I'd rather go home.
Yep.
Well,
I feel like it kills anything, like any reference to fly casual is now dead if that is the way these kits are going to go. With that kind of price point for entry, this kind of price support, it's all about winning now.
I think for those players that where the prizes are the most important, yes, their O2 drop. Anybody else that's the more casual style wants to come in, like Ed had said earlier, I want 4 games of X-Wing. I'm going to pay $24, $25 for 4 games of X-Wing. That's the type of player that's going to stay and play the rest of the way out. But you are correct.
You've got to look at, for those players, there's now more cheaper organized play because there is more organized play. You're going to have wave kits every wave, which will last for 3 events. You've got seasonal kits, which are designed for 3 months worth of play.
Right.
So those casual players have got a nice cheap way of getting in. This, for me, is going to be the win at all costs. This event is win or go home. And it will be interesting to see how the community forms and shapes, whether we accept that or not.
Right.
It almost feels like it's going to drive a hard line of division between the hyper-competitive tournament-style players and the casual players. And I can see players who cross populate between the two, but almost like there's a hard line division of, I don't go to the Hyperspace events, they're $40 a pop, and I get my face crushed. I'd rather go to this one here, earn those arcade tokens, earn those campaign cards or whatever the heck those cards are. That's more fun to me. That's more my style of X-Wing. And then those players just don't show up to those events. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like the idea.
Which also drives that risk higher at that point for this price point, because when your player base is shrinking due to style of play, you're basically going to be charging the high level players. Those 30 players that are coming for the prizes, you're going to have to charge them $25, $30, $40.
Yeah.
Because you have to set the price point prior to the tournament start, because you don't know how many people are going to sign up. It's not going to be a sliding scale day of event. It's going to be, hey, it's going to cost you $30 to come play at my tournament, which could drive those marginally good players away too, because of the price point. And who wants to, the key piece here is how far are you willing to travel for a let's just say, as an example, a $30 price point when you have to make top 32
at a potentially 80 to 100 player event.
Correct.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't go anywhere, so.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that
maybe I just move into the casual side of it and I just play the casual events and I'm happy there winning my little arcade tokens.
You still have to go somewhere.
Yeah, the store. I can go, 5 minutes down the road. Yeah, well, I'm trying.
I think
do or do not, there is no try.
I think the fact that there's going to be more of these around, I honestly think that for this first batch, especially Kit 1, I think we'll see a spike. There'll be more of these than there ever were regionals. Right. The number of people who run Kit 2 will be the interesting one, and then Kit 1 2020 is when we'll see if it was a success or not.
Right, because
totally by then we'll know the formula. By that point in time, we'll have gone through these twice. We'll know what we're getting. I think
more of the fact that if this kit exists in 2020, we'll say if it's a success or not.
I see what you mean. Gotcha.
Yeah. No, this is interesting. I like the concept behind it. A little nervous about price point and players. There's a lot of risk, a lot of unknown, with too many unknowns. And the other thing is, the other scary thing, if I were a store, the scary thing is I just don't know what this is. There's not enough. You have information, but it's not enough information to. I work, so what I do for a living, I deal with a lot of risk management, and I view risking money every day in making sure that we maximize the risk. Every dollar we spend is a maximized risk dollar spent. And if I'm a store, I'm looking at this like, I don't know, especially a cash poor store. I mean, I'm like, will I have 450 available? When you actually have to pay for the kit, when the kit is issued out and you're being charged the money. And I know people are going to say, well, why are you in business if you don't have 450? Well, there's a lot of stores that don't. They're tied up in inventory.
Well, you don't know when this drops. If you what else has been released during that time, the store's going to pay for it. It's not necessarily that we don't have $450. It's that we don't have $450 to sit on until September.
Right.
But I agree. What I wanted to move on. So my hope, and we might do a round table at the end and then close it out. But my hope and dream for this kit is that what Ed was saying about it being that hard line between casually competitive play and this is how you get to Worlds now. Worlds is going to be invite only. You need to be placing at these events. There's going to be an unlimited, they're only going to be capped by the number of stores who apply. That's the only limit to the number of events these are. Of this type that we have, and this is your route to Worlds, and then you can charge $50 a ticket because this is the only way you get to Worlds, and those ultra competitive people will come and play these events, and it will be like that PTQ style of qualifiers. If they go that route, I can fully get behind this price point and this style of kit. If it is just a continuation of fluffy X-Wing is fun, let's all play, I don't know that this will be a success or not.
I agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. I tend to agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Chad?
You got to go to tournaments.
So you're abstaining from that one. All right, so I think we did a fine job on this one for this particular In Focus. This could have actually been a main topic for the main show, but part of the thing I like about this little format that we've got going is that stuff comes up and I'm like, hey, let's get together and talk about it. Sounds like a great idea. So I will go ahead and close out the show. I know that there is some housekeeping we got, but I will say goodbye to the folks that don't do housekeeping. Sean, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yep, it's great to be here. Glad I actually like these. These are fun little bullets that we can shoot out of the gun and on any topic that comes down, and and actually it's working out.
I think so too, because it kind of shortens up our shows. We're not going to run into these 3-hour shows. Like we'd have had this conversation and the previous conversation. That's an hour off of what would be our normal shows, and it gets us down to those like 60 to 90 minute concise shows that we're hoping for. So that's what I like about it.
So I got more room to talk in the flight deck.
Yep, absolutely. 45-minute flight decks. Here we come. I actually have to fly something to be able to have 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll flight deck all the time.
Absolutely. Chad, do you want to do our shout outs to our current Patreons?
If you want to go to me before Chris, yeah, we can do that.
Does that sound good to you, Chris? And then you can give us the closing, the other emails and all that other fun stuff?
Yeah, whatever you want, man.
Sounds good. All right, Chad, I know you got a list of our patrons that are currently there. Let's give a shout out real quick.
All right, real quick. We got some place called Dice Hate Productions. You ever guys hear of this place?
I never heard of them, but it's good that they're it's good they're a Patreon.
Yeah. Then next up on our list, I've got some Sean Dorsey guy.
Never heard of him. Yeah. Thank you, Sean.
No clue.
And then we got some real heroes here.
Oh. Heroes of the Resistance.
Gustavo.
Yeah, Gustavo. Thank you, my friend.
Gustavo Cello there. Thanks, man. Last show, I know you were the only one who wasn't part of the show. It was on the list at the time. So, unfortunately, this one's not just for you. You have some company now. So
you do.
We got Jerry Holt, who he was hitting us up with all kinds of questions before when we asked on Facebook. So good to see you joining us, man. And Ronnie Herget, I hope that's right. If not, yell at Ed. Just because it's fun to yell at Ed, trust me.
We charge the Alpha Phonetics, apparently.
Yeah, but we'll say thanks to those three guys for supporting us.
Yeah, so we've added Patreons since we did our last In Focus. So thanks, guys. We really appreciate it.
Which was, what, the beginning of the week?
Right?
They're getting their money's worth, at least.
Yeah. So, hey, guys, thanks a lot. It's always great to see people supporting the show. I mean, that's why we do this, because it's for you. If you support
glad that we're entertaining.
You can do more of it.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, you've got us a little bit of housekeeping that we can get out of here.
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention, obviously, that that increase in the number of patrons did put us above our goal for setting up the Dice 8 RSS feed. So we will be getting a split, or sorry, a lack of focus RSS feed. So we'll be splitting off from the Dice 8 one. But it'll all sort itself out. There's been some questions on the Facebook group. We're trying to make little improvements as we go along. Hopefully you're all seeing the improvements. I do want to apologize for my shitty audio on episode 3.
You did get some shit for that.
It is a little bit choppy on my end. I've fixed the problem. I know exactly what I did wrong. Unfortunately, other than me listening to it, writing down all of my lines, and then rereading them, there is no way to fix it. So I can't be bothered doing that.
Didn't have me.
So no, I set up some noise gating on my side because the dogs were like messing around and stuff, and I didn't get the sensitivity right. So when I was sitting back in the chair, when my levels dipped, it cut out to nothing. So I couldn't recover that file. It was my mistake. So sorry about
we'll
that.
learn as we go. It's not like we've ever done this before, Chris.
Well, it's getting back into a swing of it, getting the setup right. So I do have a different mic position. I'm going to try it out here again, see how this picks up. But yeah, hopefully that's all fixed now. But yeah, make sure you're hitting us up on Lack of Focus Podcast on Facebook, Lack of Focus Podcast at gmail.com if you'd like to email us. Obviously, you guys have already found us on Patreon, so we do have obviously a community here, so make sure you give us some feedback. If you like any of the content, let us know. Keep sending in the questions, stuff like that. We do have plans for the questions we got on episode 2. We're going to try and make one of those the main topic for episode 4, stuff like that. Make sure we are answering these responsibly. I do have one question from the Zach Matthews that he sent me personally. He wanted to know why K's were better than C's. And obviously it's because Chris on top, and I beat Chris Allen and Chris Brown because I'm better than they are in every way. So there you go, Zach. Chris Allen sucks. Chris Brown sucks. Chris Sheriff is man. That's where you want to be. K's on top.
Do you know who he is? Do you know who I am?
But yeah, we do have some more questions coming in ready for the next batch of real episodes. So we'll save them up. And yeah, that's
which is in exactly 1 week's recording schedule time, assuming we don't get another one of these in.
Yeah. Well, that's me.
All right, excellent. Thank you for doing all that you do for our show, my friend. I will close this one out by saying thank you to all the Patrons. Again, I believe, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, you have made these free to view. So just going to the Patreon community page allows you to see them. Is that correct?
So the video files are patron only. And always,
okay, that's what it is.
So if you want to watch it, you have to be a Patreon. If you want to listen to it, it goes on it's hosted on Patreon, so it doesn't go onto our normal podcast feed. It's Patreon exclusive for 3 days and then becomes public, so you can hear what you're missing. We'll see how we want to build a community on Patreon as well and get that back and forth going. So we'll see if people have like complaints or questions, anything like that. But ultimately, it's extra content. These ones don't count towards your per episode billing either. Only 2 main shows a month, or only the main shows count for that. So every 2 weeks. And what our plan is, because we've hit the first goal, the next goal is $50 per episode. If we reach that goal, it will go to every other episode is when you'll get billed. So the more people we pile in, we'll bill you half as much. So that's our next goal.
That's twice as much Lack of Focus for half the price.
Exactly. Math. Don't know.
But yeah.
Or half the donation, because we give the show away for free anyway. But of course, we do appreciate the support. It is extraordinarily helpful.
I would say as well, sorry, just to interject, you can set a cap on your monthly payment. So if you only want to pay your maximum amount per month, make sure you're setting that up. As much as it is per episode, $1 a month helps. So if you set it as $1 and a maximum of $1 a month, if we tried to bill you 17 times because we put out a lot of content, you would still only get charged $1 and you would still have access to everything. So don't make sure you're only giving us what you can afford. I'd much rather you bought food and paid bills than throw money at us.
And don't forget to buy extra miniatures. Don't forget that. That's important.
Live vicariously, like Ed does.
But,
exactly.
But with that Patreon account, like you said, you get to see the videos. So you actually get the, Chris, Ed, Sean, and me not wearing pants. I mean,
Woohoo! I mean, what else could you
I do have shorts on today.
Oh. I have shorts on today, too. I wore shorts to work today. I go to work in a suit and tie. So for me to be able to wear shorts to work today was a real treat. All right, so this has gone way, way, way over what we thought it was going to do. I thought it was going to be 10 minutes, and this really split up. But it was a good topic. Thank you again for listening, and as always, fly casual. Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out Dice Hate Productions for all the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.